Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Viewers, welcome to Study Hub. In this video lecture, I will discuss with you about monetary policy statement issued by State Bank of Pakistan in January 2023. Viewers, आज की हमारा वीडियो लेक्चर होने जा रहा है मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट के ऊपर, जो कि स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान ने इशू की है जनवरी 2023 में. So without any further discussion, without any further delay, let's start our today's topic, which is monetary policy statement 2023. At today's meeting, the Monetary Policy Committee decided to increase the policy rate by 100 basis points to 17%. The committee noted that inflationary pressures are persisting and continue to be broad-based. If these remained unchecked, they could feed into higher inflation expectations over a longer than anticipated period. The MPC Monetary Policy Committee stressed that it is critical to anchor inflation expectations and achieve the objective of price stability to support sustainable growth in the future. Viewers, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट में जो कि पॉलिसी रेट को इंक्रीज़ किया गया है वो 100 बेसिस पॉइंट्स पर जो है 17% इंक्रीज़ कर दिया गया है. मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट में 2023 की जो लेटेस्ट हमारे पास मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट है, अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस पॉलिसी रेट 100 बेसिस पॉइंट्स के साथ इंक्रीज़ करके 17% जो है स्टेट बैंक का पॉलिसी रेट इंक्रीज़ कर दिया गया है. व्यूअर्स, नेक्स्ट हमारे पास जो आता है, सिंस द लास्ट मीटिंग the MPC particularly noted three important economic developments. First, despite some moderation in November and December, inflation continues to remain elevated. Importantly, core inflation has been on a rising trend for the past 10 months. Moreover, the recent pulse surveys shows inching up of consumers and businesses inflation expectations. Second, near-term challenges for the external sector have increased despite the policy-induced contraction in the current account deficit. The lack of fresh financial inflows and ongoing debt repayments have led to a continuous drawdown in official reserves. Third, the global economic and financial conditions broadly remain uncertain in the near to short term, leading to mixed implications for the domestic economy. The expected slowdown in global demand could negatively impact the outlook of exports and workers' remittances for emerging economies, including Pakistan. This would partially offset the gains from the import contraction. On the flip side, some moderation in the international commodity prices may help reduce inflation, and the improvement in global financial conditions may also provide some relief on the external sector. On balance, the committee reiterated its November 2022 assessment that the short-term costs of bringing down inflation are lower than the long-term cost of allowing it to become entrenched. The MPC Monetary Policy Committee also emphasized on the engagements with the multilateral and bilateral partners to overcome domestic uncertainty and to address the near-term external sector challenges. Real sector, the incoming high-frequency data continues to suggest broad-based and sustained moderation in economic activity in response to policy tightening and exogenous shocks like 2022 floods. Sales volumes of automobiles POL and cement declined significantly in December on year-to-year and month-to-month basis. On the production side, the large-scale manufacturing LSM output declined by 5.5% in November 2022. Going forward, production cuts by firms and supply constraints could pull LSM large-scale manufacturing growth further down. Moreover, the latest data on cotton arrivals point to lower crop production than anticipated earlier. This could potentially weaken the agriculture sector outlook despite satisfactory reports about sugarcane production and progress on sowing of wheat crop for the current season. Taking stock of these developments, the MPC views that the downside risks to the State Bank's Pakistan's baseline growth outlook for this year have increased. Whereas large scale manufacturing output declined by 5.5% according to the monetary policy स्टेटमेंट 2023 इसमें एक ये हमें मेन पॉइंट मिलता है और इसके साथ साथ जो है वियर्स लार्ज स्केल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग डिक्लाइन होने के साथ साथ जो कॉटन अराइवल्स हैं पॉइंट टू लोअर क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन एंड एंटिसिपेटेड अर्लियर उसमें भी हमें जो है लोअर क्रॉप्स होन देखने में आ रहे हैं कुड पोटेंशियली वीकन द एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर जो कि एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर को वियर्स जो है वीकन कर रहा है डिस्पाइट सेटिस्फैक्ट्री रिपोर्ट्स अबाउट शुगर कैन जो कि इसके बावजूद कि एक सेटिस्फैक्ट्री रिपोर्ट्स जो थी अब शुगर कैन गन्ने के बारे में प्रोडक्शन गन्ने की प्रोडक्शन के बारे में एंड प्रोग्रेस ऑफ सोइंग वीट गंदम गंदम की क्रॉप्स के ऊपर करंट सीजन में एक्सटर्नल सेक्टर the current account deficit narrowed by around 60% to $7.3 billion in fiscal year 23. This substantial reduction was due to a sharp contraction in imports, reflecting the impact of policy tightening and administrative measures. The contraction in imports was broad based, with all major crops except food and petroleum groups recording decline. Petroleum imports increased by 17.4% BOP data, resulting in their share in total imports rising to 34.1% in fiscal year 23 from 23.7% in fiscal year 2022. In this backdrop, the MPC Monetary Policy Committee noted that effective implementation of energy conservation measures and appreciate pricing of petroleum products is critical for much needed reduction in energy imports. The benefit of an 18.2% fall in imports was partially offset by declines in export receipts and remittances, notwithstanding the reduction in the current account deficit. The external sector remains under stress due to delay in realization of official financial inflows, debt repayments, and ongoing political uncertainty. In this regard, the MPC Monetary Policy Committee views that the completion of the pending ninth review under the IMF EFF is critical for reducing uncertainty and unlocking multilateral and bilateral inflows. Fiscal sector. The fiscal deficit widened to 1.5% of GDP in the first 4 months of fiscal year 23 from 0.9% in the same period last year, while the primary surplus fell to 0.2% of GDP as compared to 0.3% last year. The FBR taxes grew by 17% in fiscal year 23, slower than the growth envisaged in the budget. The expectation of further slowdown in economic activity and reduction in imports in fiscal year 23 poses downside risks to maintaining growth momentum in tax collection. The MPC Monetary Policy Committee noted that the current fiscal stance is inconsistent with monetary tightening. Thus, given the evolving macroeconomic challenges, it is important for the fiscal policy to achieve the planned consolidation in order to help contain inflation and pave the way for sustainable growth. Monetary and inflation outlook. The, bro- the broad money growth declared in fiscal year 23, primarily reflecting the stress on the external account. Domestic credit, on the other hand, expanded owing to seasonal rise in private sector credit along with increased budgetary borrowing because of reduced external financing. The disaggregated analysis of private sector credit shows retirement in consumer finance and moderation in working capital and fixed investment loans. National CPI inflation remained at elevated levels despite some moderation in recent months compared to the 26.6% year to year in October. The headline inflation slightly eased to 23.8% in November and 24.5% in December 2022. Increase in flood inflation remains the major contributor to this persistence in inflation. The core inflation also rose due to increasing core goods prices, especially durables, downwards adjustment in fuel prices, and reduction in fuel cost charges slightly muted the energy inflation in recent months. However, the uncertainty on their future path and expected near term adjustments remain the major upside risks to the inflation outlooks. Reflecting these concerns, both the consumer and business inflation expectations have drifted upwards over the short and medium term in the latest Pulse survey. The MPC Monetary Policy Committee views that anchoring of inflation expectations is important to achieve the medium term inflation target of 5 to 7% by December 2014 and requires coordinated monetary and fiscal policy efforts. व्यूअर्स, ये थी आज की हमारी वीडियो मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट के ऊपर इशूड बाय द स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान। थारोली हमने इसको रीड किया और मेन जो पॉइंट्स थे उनको हमने डिस्कस किया, जो मेन फिगर्स पॉइंट्स जो इंक्रीज़ किए गए थे स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान की तरफ से। होप्स हो कि इस वीडियो से आपकी जो है अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो गई होगी और फ्यूचर में ये आपके लिए बेनिफिट रहेगी। आज की वीडियो के लिए इतना ही। एक नई वीडियो के आने तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफ़िज़, फ़ी अमान अल्लाह।